The day I handed my brother a spare key to my condo, I thought I was being a good sister. I thought, he's hurting, I have space, I'm barely home anyway. That's what family does. I never imagined that 14 months later, I'd be standing in my own building lobby at 10 o'clock on a Thursday night, watching a security screen flash. Access. Denied in red. While laughter drifted down from the 14th floor through the ventilation shaft above the elevator bank. My name is Allison. I'm 34 years old and I've worked as a senior project consultant in Toronto for almost a decade. It's the kind of job that looks glamorous from the outside. Business travel, government contracts, a downtown office with a view. But what it actually means is that I've spent the better part of 6 years living out of a carry-on and eating hotel breakfasts in cities that aren't mine. Ottawa, Calgary, Edmonton, Halifax once, for a brutal winter contract I still don't like to think about. What that life gave me, besides frequent flyer points and a very good eye for reading people quickly, was money. Steady, unspectacular, carefully saved money. And 5 years ago, I used it to buy a 2-bedroom condo in Toronto's West End. Ground floor of a 14-story building, GO station 5 minutes on foot, a narrow balcony that caught enough of the lake on clear days that I called it a view, even when my friends disagreed. It was the first thing in my adult life that was entirely and unambiguously mine. I am telling you this so you understand what I lost when I handed over that key. Not just the square footage. The thing it represented. My brother's marriage had been coming apart for a long time, but the official end arrived in early spring. A text from his wife's lawyer, a joint account frozen, a shared lease dissolved. He was 37 years old, sleeping on a friend's sectional in Scarborough, and when he called me that Sunday afternoon, I could hear it in the space between his sentences. He was somewhere past exhausted and working his way toward broken. Just somewhere to land, he said. 2 months, maybe 3. I'd be doing you a favor anyway. Place shouldn't sit empty. He'd always had that habit, framing his needs as your benefit. I noticed it. I said yes anyway. The arrangement was this. I was heading to Ottawa for a federal infrastructure consulting project, minimum 6 weeks, possibly longer. My condo would be empty. He could stay. I didn't register him with the condo corporation or put him on any documentation, because, in my mind, he wasn't a tenant. He was my brother, staying temporarily in my home while his life sorted itself out. I paid the quarterly maintenance fees before I left. I reminded him twice that I expected the place left exactly as I found it, and that if anything needed attention, he was to contact me immediately. He said he understood. He said he was grateful. He said it twice. I want you to hold on to that word. Grateful. I'll come back to it. The Ottawa project ran long. They always do when the client is a federal ministry and the scope keeps expanding. Then a Calgary contract came through that I couldn't turn down in good conscience, and suddenly what was supposed to be 6 weeks had become 4.5 months. I sent my condo fee payments from my bank account. I texted my brother periodically. He replied with some variation of fine, everything's fine, stop worrying, and I let myself believe him because I was tired and I was busy and I wanted it to be true. I flew home on a Thursday evening in late October, connecting through Pearson after a delayed flight from Calgary. By the time I got through the terminal and onto the transit and walked through my building's front doors, I was operating on stale airport coffee and the bone-deep weariness of someone who has not slept in their own bed in months. I tapped my key fob at the elevator panel. Access, denied. I thought, glitch, tried again, same red flash. I went to the overnight concierge desk, where a security guard I didn't recognize looked up from his monitor with the polite blankness of someone with no context for who I was. I told him my unit number. He typed something, frowned slightly, and said, "The registered occupant for that unit submitted a security change request approximately 6 weeks ago. The previous key holder was noted as having vacated permanently. New fobs were issued. Previous key holder." I asked him to repeat that. "I'm sorry," he said. already uncomfortable. You'll need to contact building management in the morning. I can't override this system tonight without board authorization. I used my emergency stairwell code, which, mercifully, hadn't been changed, and took the stairs to 14. When I came around the corner toward my unit, I saw it from 10 feet away, a piece of paper taped to my own front door, not typed, handwritten, my brother's handwriting, which I had known my whole life. Allie, I know this is going to sting, but we've made a real home here now. You're never around anyway, and honestly, this makes more sense for everyone. Your boxes are down on P1 in the storage locker. Please don't make a scene out of this. Through the door, I could hear music. A woman laughing, bright, easy, entirely at home. The smell of something cooking drifted through the gap at the bottom. My kitchen, my oven, my cast iron pan I'd bought at a farmer's market in Kensington and seasoned for 3 years. The balcony where I'd sat with coffee every morning. I was actually in Toronto, watching that thin strip of lake go silver in the early light. I stood in that hallway for a long time. I had my phone in my hand. I had the non-emergency police number, my building management's after-hours line, and my real estate lawyer's personal cell, all within 2 taps. I thought about every one of them. I thought about knocking until the door opened, about the look on my brother's face, about making him say out loud what he'd only had the nerve to write in a note he taped up while I was 4,500 kilometers away. Then I breathed, slowly, deliberately. I put my phone in my pocket. I went down to the parking level and found the storage locker on P1. My things were there, not in garbage bags but in boxes, neatly labeled in my brother's handwriting. Bedroom, kitchen misc, books, which, as I said, almost made it worse. The care of it, the planning. He hadn't done this in a moment of anger. He'd organized my life into banker's boxes and relocated it to a concrete cage underground and told himself that was a kindness. I took what I could carry, called a cab from the parking garage, and left. Here is what my brother did not know. 14 months before that night, right around the period when his marriage was starting its visible decline, and I was beginning to feel, quietly, that the temporary in our arrangement might get tested. I had purchased a second property. A townhouse in Oakville. 3 bedrooms, attached garage, small backyard, 12 minutes from the QEW, and 2 blocks from a Tim Hortons. My tenant had told me she visited every single morning. I bought it as a rental investment, on advice from my financial planner, who had been telling me for 2 years to stop leaving so much sitting in my TFSA and RRSP and put it into something that would grow with the market. I did my research. I made the purchase. I signed the papers on a Tuesday and told absolutely no one in my family, because the property was mine, and I had learned, by that point in my adult life, that the moment you tell certain people about something good, they begin calculating how it might benefit them. My tenant had moved out the previous month. I'd been in the middle of deciding whether to relist or hold the unit. That night, I let myself in with my own key, set my bags on the hardwood floor in the entry, and sat on the stairs in the dark for a while. Then I opened a bottle of Niagara Chardonnay I'd been meaning to open for months, poured a glass, and started thinking. My brother had no idea what he had stepped into. Because here is what is true about property ownership in Ontario, and what my brother had clearly never bothered to understand. My name was on the title, registered with the Land Registry of Ontario, clear and documented and entirely non-negotiable, and the Condo Corporation, the legal body that manages building access, maintenance, and fees, had received approximately 6 weeks before my return a written request from what they understood to be my authorized representative, requesting a security update for my unit. The letter he'd submitted used careful language, official sounding, but it was not signed by the registered owner. It was not notarized. And the building management team, a little too trusting of something that looked procedurally correct, had processed it without cross-referencing the title registry. I called my real estate lawyer the next morning. She was quiet for a moment after I finished, which is always the sign. She's already thinking 4 steps ahead. He submitted a document representing himself as your authorized agent without your knowledge or consent, she said. The condo corporation acted on it. That's their exposure. For your brother, it's considerably more complicated. What do I do? I asked. Nothing yet, she said. Give me a few days. For 2 weeks, I maintained total silence. He texted twice. The first time, "Hey, just wanted to make sure you found the storage locker okay." The second, a week later, "I think this actually works out better for everyone. You should really consider getting a place closer to the airport anyway, given how much you travel." That last part, the way he'd packaged the theft of my home as a logistical suggestion for my benefit. I read it 4 times and then I saved the screenshot. My mother called on day 9. Her opening line was, "Your brother says you're taking this very hard, but Allie, you need to think about what family actually means." I let her finish. I said I was in the middle of something and I'd call her back. I didn't call her back. On social media, my brother's girlfriend, someone he'd apparently been seeing for 3 months, someone who had moved into my condo sometime in September, posted a photo series. The living room rearranged. The balcony strung with new fairy lights. My dining table set for brunch, sunlight coming through my windows, a caption that read, "Finally home in the city. So grateful for this space." My brother commented a heart. I screenshotted that too. What was happening in the background while I stayed quiet? Emboldened by 6 weeks of total silence from me, my brother had begun making moves. He contacted a real estate agent about subletting the second bedroom. He sent a formal written request to the building management office, asking that his name be added to the unit's ownership registry. He wrote this request on what appeared to be personal stationery, signed it, and submitted it through the building's administrative channel. The building management team, already slightly unsettled by my lawyer's first inquiry, forwarded that request to the condo board's legal counsel. That's when my lawyer submitted the complete documentation package. Title deed, original purchase agreement, 5 years of mortgage statements, and a formal declaration that no ownership transfer or authorized occupancy change had ever been approved by the registered owner of the unit. Not once. Not informally, not in writing, not in any form. The condo corporation moved fast after that. They were legally exposed. They'd modified building access based on a document that was, at minimum, a misrepresentation. An emergency board motion was filed. My key fob access was restored within 48 hours. But the part that made my lawyer pause, and then almost smile. The quarterly condo maintenance fees had come due while my brother was in residence. He had received the automated billing notices because my address was his address now, as far as he was concerned, and had set them aside. He'd told himself he'd get to it once his name was properly on the registry, and he could manage the account directly. 2 quarters worth of fees. $6,400 outstanding and accumulating administrative penalties. The condo corporation's legal team reviewed the written requests my brother had submitted. The ones where he'd explicitly identified himself as my authorized representative, the ones where he'd formally asked to be named as a co-owner, and made a determination. His documented attempts to assume ownership authority created legal liability for the obligations he had ignored. The maintenance fee arrears, the administrative penalty for the fraudulent access submission, the cost of the external legal review the board had been forced to commission. Just over $9,000, reassigned to him, payable within 30 days, or it would proceed to collections. I found out on a Wednesday morning over coffee at my kitchen table in Oakville. I read the document twice, then I made one more call. I listed my Toronto condo. I'd been thinking about it since the night I came home to a red screen and a note on my door. The unit had appreciated considerably. Comparable sales in the building had been tracking upward for 2 years, driven by the neighborhood's ongoing development and the building's recent amenity upgrades. My real estate agent, who had helped me with the Oakville purchase and knew my situation without requiring lengthy explanation, listed it at market value. I had an accepted offer within 11 days. I was in a Friday afternoon meeting, quarterly review, 3 colleagues, a shared screen with a project timeline, when my assistant knocked on the glass and said quietly that my family was in reception. I looked up. She had the careful expression of someone who has assessed a situation and is professionally neutral about it. I excused myself. My brother was standing near the reception desks, holding an envelope, looking pale in the way people look when something they were certain of has stopped being certain. His girlfriend wasn't with him. My mother was standing slightly behind him in her good coat, her expression the specific combination of frightened and disappointed that she reserved for situations she didn't fully understand but was certain were someone else's fault. "We need to talk outside," my brother said. His voice was low, controlled. I looked around the reception area. Clean, quiet, professional. The receptionist was attentive and completely still. "You can say what you need to say here," I told him. He held up the envelope. "The condo board's legal notice. This is $9,000 that they're calling my debt. That's insane. You own the unit. These are your fees, your financial obligations. You need to fix this." My mother stepped forward. "Allie, please, be reasonable. He's got nowhere. They have nowhere to go right now. You have options. You always have options. Just give it more time." I thought about the Sunday afternoon phone call. "I just need somewhere to land." I thought about the note on my door. "Please don't make a scene." I thought about the brunch photos with the fairy lights. So grateful for this space. I reached into my blazer pocket and set 3 documents on the reception desk between us. "First," I said quietly enough that my voice didn't carry past the 4 of us. "Title deed. Registered with the Land Registry of Ontario. My name, my property, has been since the day I purchased it. You were a guest. You were never authorized to represent yourself as my agent or as a co-owner in any correspondence with the condo corporation." My brother's jaw moved slightly, but nothing came out. "Second, your letter to the building management office. Your handwriting, your signature, identifying yourself as my authorized representative and requesting security access changes. That letter is what created your legal liability, not anything I did. You wrote it." My mother started to speak. "Third," I slid the last page forward. "Accepted offer on the sale of the unit. Conditional period has passed. I close in 33 days, which means, per the condo board's unauthorized occupancy notice that was formally served to you 8 days ago, you have 22 days remaining to vacate." The reception area was very quiet. Somewhere in the building's ventilation system, the air moved. My brother looked up from the pages. Something in his face had shifted. Not anger, exactly. Something closer to the expression of someone who has been very confident for a very long time and has just realized all at once that the confidence was never justified. "Where are we supposed to go?" he said. "I don't know," I said. "That isn't a question I can answer for you. You knew the arrangement we had. You changed the access on a property you didn't own. You submitted documentation misrepresenting yourself to the building. And when I came home after 4 months, there was a note on my door telling me not to make a scene." I paused. "Every decision that led to this one was yours. I made mine quietly, and I'm living with the results." My mother touched my arm. "Allie." "I'll call you," I said. "Not today." I watched them cross the lobby and wait for the elevator. I watched the doors close. Then I went back into my meeting and apologized for the interruption, and we finished the quarterly review. And afterward I drove back to Oakville and made dinner in my own kitchen and sat on my own backstep in the October cold for a while, just breathing. The sale closed 5 weeks later. After clearing the remaining mortgage balance, covering land transfer adjustments, and accounting for legal and commission fees, I deposited $162,000 into my investment savings account. It sat alongside the rental income I'd been accumulating from Oakville through all of this, quietly and without anyone's knowledge. My brother and his girlfriend moved into a furnished month-to-month rental in Brampton. The $9,000 condo board debt went to collections when he couldn't settle it in 30 days. His credit score took a hit that will follow him for years, making it considerably harder to qualify for a mortgage, a lease, or a significant loan for the foreseeable future. My mother didn't speak to me for 6 weeks. When she did call, she was quieter than I expected. She said she hadn't understood the full picture. I told her I knew and I let it rest there. We talk now. Not the way we used to, maybe, but we talk. I still live in Oakville. The townhouse is smaller than the condo was, and the commute is longer. And there's no balcony view of the lake. But there's a garden in the back that I'm slowly learning what to do with. And the street is quiet in the mornings. And nothing about it exists because someone allowed me to stay here. It's mine the way things should be mine, completely and without condition. My brother gave me an eviction note and thought he was ending a chapter he found inconvenient. What he actually gave me was the most precise possible demonstration of who he had always been, and the momentum to stop organizing my life around protecting people who had never once considered protecting me. If you came home from a work trip and found your own locks changed and a note on your door telling you that you didn't live there anymore, what would you do? Would you call the police that same night, or would you do what I did and walk away quietly while they convinced themselves they'd won? I want to know. Tell me in the comments, and tell me what city you're watching from. I want to see exactly how far this story has reached.